Good evening. Welcome to Thursdays with NAMI. My name is Peg Morrison, and I'll be your host for the evening. I'm really glad you're here. I'm the Director of Programs for NAMI North Carolina, and Thursdays with NAMI is our way of connecting with one another and building community around mental health. Tonight's theme is the art of recovery. Our panelists each have a story to tell about the power of art in their lives. First, a word from our sponsors. And I'm going to share this screen so you can see some very attractive logos provided by our sponsors, the North Carolina Division of Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Substance Abuse Services, which is a function of the North Carolina Division of Mental Health, the Department of Health and Human Services of North Carolina. And this comes through the Mental Health Services Block Grant Fund. The block grant comes from the U.S. Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. Always we appreciate their support. I knew one day I would miss that up, so I guess this was the week. All right, the first half of our show will be a conversation with our guests. I'll be asking them questions. At around 7:45, we're going to show a fun video of the week, and then we'll spend time answering your questions. If you have friends who wanted to be here tonight but couldn't be, please tell them. It's perfectly fine. We do record every show, and tonight's program will be downloaded to the NAMI North Carolina YouTube channel in just a few days. NAMI believes in second chances, so we'll be out there for anyone who missed us tonight. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our two artists. I'm really happy that we have a diversity of perspectives, including a U.S. veteran, and diversity in types of art, including painting, sculpture, and quilting, and of course, racial diversity as well. So Trip Jarvis. Trip Jarvis is a resident of Durham, and he is the resident artist at Liberty Arts Studio and Foundry, where he runs the cast iron program, the iron casting program. Trip received an MFA from East Carolina University and studied abroad at the Estonian Academy of Art in Tallinn, Estonia. He's the subject of a documentary produced by the Hope James Foundation called Temple of the Heart, done by filmmaker Ajit Anthony. The short film features Trip and the healing journey that he discovered through art. Trip now works with the Josh Hope Foundation and the North Carolina Art Therapy Institute to educate and inspire all those who are affected in any way by trauma and mental health issues. All right, and now it's my pleasure to introduce Lisa Dumas Wade, our other talented artist. She is a Vietnam-era veteran who has lived with PTSD for a number of years. She is self-taught and once thought of art as a hobby. Then she noticed her anxiety and depression fading during those creative moments, and art became her life. That's a pretty powerful statement. When Linda began researching her family tree in the 90s, her artwork was informed, she found, and inspired by her cultural heritage. She created musty folk art, an African Native American art form. So that's a pretty cool thing to claim. She's a member of the African American Quilt Circle of Durham and a team leader for the Franklin County Arts Council Diversity Team. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right. So I'm excited to have you both with us, two kindred spirits and creative souls. We've been chatting a little bit before the program came out, and you're both very adept at metalworking and talking about your stories. So we'll start with the basics. Tell me how you're taking care of yourselves these days. We live in an interesting era. We're just starting to be able to leave the house again.
Yeah, that's a good one because it changes through the weeks. Like the first couple of weeks of our stay at home, there's lots of sunshine. I was sitting on the porch writing, doing a self-authoring program online and writing about my past and planning for the future, and things were good. And I got into my Tai Chi a little more deeply and just started exercising. The most part I've done a lot of resting, to be honest, and with such a busy life with a day job, and then, doing my duties at Liberty Arts and teaching classes and trying to make art on my own. It was good for a minute to have a staycation. but
Sure.
but yeah, it's just I did a lot of Tai Chi, a lot of reflecting, with my history of psychosis and schizoaffective disorder. I've felt since I was 19 that I was going to have something valuable to share with people out of this, and so the art has helped a lot. But I've, these past few weeks, I've done a lot of reflecting, reevaluating my direction. And my kids are about both to live in Europe. One of them's already over there going to school. So, I have no property. I have no house that I own. So,
Yeah, me
what do you
too.
do? So I've been thinking, just taking the time to think. I've done a little bit of drawing and stuff, not so much sculpture because I've been, of course, staying away from the studio a bit, but I did do some stuff at home, and that's helped a lot. These mandala type forms that I've been drawing, and so just really going day to day, trying to figure out, the best way to utilize, be it rest, be it, drawing, coming up with new ideas, taking time to read some books I wanted to read, um, trying to make it, trying to find of course, the silver lining in it all, and it's easy to kind of wander off, but in your mind, but I try to hold on to the best parts of our humanity and hope they win out,
Yeah,
keep those in mind. So, I mean,
absolutely.
yeah.
How about you, Linda? Thank you, Trip.
Right. Uh, well, about me, what this time has done for me, it's really had me focus more. I'm used to staying home in the house. That's one of the symptoms for PTSD. You sort of hibernate. So I do hibernate a lot. So it hasn't affected me in that way so much. But the first couple of weeks, I did complete 17 paintings. So I was constantly just painting.
Yeah.
I had, I had to force myself to stop. So
Yeah.
this time it really had me and I've spent time running ideas through my head and doodling on what I want to do, but I had to slow myself down because I was constantly painting. So it's been this time has been had me focus a little bit more, but I usually stay out most of the time, so it's been okay.
Yeah. Well, I can really relate to what both of you are saying, that sometimes when you have an era where you have no choice but to be calm and be still, it is a helpful thing to be reflective. And I really relate to your comment, Linda, too, that I seem to I'm like good at hibernating, and then once I sort of get going and my gears are in motion, then it's like, okay, I got to slow down. Yeah, so I can feel those two extremes sometimes. And before we go too much further, I know you both have pieces of art that you can show us. So let's do a little show and tell before we go further with more questions.
Let's see. All right, so I got one of my drawings. See if I can get it in screen. Okay. Hold on. I've got
so complex.
That is there a reflection on it? Hold on. Get a little bit better. I got it on. Can I try something technical right quick?
I got it on. Can I try something technical right quick?
I'm not sure. Do you mean artistic, technical,
good.
or changing
No,
your audio? We're getting lots of reverb again.
Yeah. Okay.
That was beautiful. It reminded me a little bit of Escher meets someone else.
Yeah. I can actually.
Yeah, I can actually.
Now we're psyched out
Um,
because of the noise.
yeah. No, yeah. What I'll do is when, as Linda shows her, I have it on my phone where I can show the actual drawing on a photo in my screen instead of my face. If we want to try that,
Okay.
I'll just disappear for a second, I think.
You do that, and Linda, why don't you show us what you brought?
I have plates, wooden plates that I painted.
Beautiful.
This is the first one. And then this is the second one.
So nice. I love that. I love those colors.
Those are African mask, Indian mask.
Did I just block everybody out?
Yeah, that's good.
I can take it away. That's just one of the ones.
I can take it right. That's one of the ones.
That's nice.
All right, hold on. Let me figure out how to disappear it. I had that. There we go. All right. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Okay, I was actually muted and I was talking anyways. I like your style, Trip. I like that you've got a lot of geometric focus, but it also seems to have like a spiritual or tribal feeling to it. That's what I get out of your work. And Linda, I love the bold colors and the mix, like the vibrant mix of color and cultures. Did you want to show us something else, Linda, before Trip so rudely interrupted you?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess I did my
I
first
haven't done it in a
photo.
while, but it's a lot. Yeah, it's a lost wax casting method. That's in the glass. It's in a there's a little shell on it.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can get a good picture.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Okay. And then
Beautiful.
this is the next one.
There it is. Now it's in focus. That's a necklace, right?
I think.
So
Yes.
pretty.
Yes.
All right. So
Those
a
are
lot of
metal casting.
wow, really, really lovely. A lot of positive feedback from our audience, our virtual studio audience. It is awesome. It's so beautiful. You're both really talented. So,
Thank
yeah,
you.
we have a really tough crowd here tonight, I can tell. All right. Well, thank you for showing your beautiful work and your talent with us. So now let's move to question number 2. It's about the creative process. How does it work for you and how does it impact your mental health?
Well, I kind of delved into a little bit at the first question, but a lot of times my work will slowly grow. Like the model, like the drawing I just showed you. I really didn't have any particular. I knew I wanted to show some type of bird in there, a dove, and the shapes. Just I draw these circles and I just start building, and it grows, and it's that response that I feel on the inside. That once I find something that balances out in the real world, whatever shape, texture, or whatever balances that feeling on the inside out, then I find the appropriate form. And I guess that's how I sort through the mental health part of it too, because it's always a response to balancing whatever I feel on the inside. But I do work on drawing sometimes with my sculptures, and sometimes my sculptures will be in my studio. They'll be small, and if they sit there too long, they grow. They get bigger and bigger until I get them out of the studio. So.
That's neat. Thank you.
But
Well,
yeah,
the creative process for me, the creative process for me, it works for me because dealing with PTSD, I can block out things while I'm working. You know, I can go to another part of my mind and function. It also cures me from having anxiety and depression. So the less that I'm feeling anxiety, the more I can create. So I that's the kind of process that goes for me. It helps me to be calm. It helps me to think a lot as while I'm creating art. And basically, that's what it does for me.
Right.
art does allow a landscape or a place for your mind to be. I agree with you on that. It's very insightful. Um, and
Right.
it gives ground for people. It's a course of communication, but it's a ground that we all can kind of share that space together, you know, in one moment. So yeah, I agree with you, Linda.
Yeah. The word that came to mind when I listened to Linda was flow. That sometimes in a normal day, my energy is just all over the place. But if I'm focused on a creative task, it's more of an even flow. It's very relaxing. And yeah, I can just focus on that and everything else kind of melts away. Yeah. And I like your comments, Trip, about balance, because there is something about, for me, it's writing or whatever your medium is. You feel, when I'm done, I feel kind of whole. I feel more balanced and more at ease with myself. So there's just something to that creative process. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So tell us about a work or creative moment that you're most proud of or that gave you a lot of joy.
I would have to say it's the piece that is two things. The piece that I did in the film and the film itself, because it was back in it was a few years ago. I was at a National Iron Conference, and I said, I'm either going back to school to get an art therapy degree, or I'm going to do a documentary. And I did the documentary, so it was kind of a fulfilling moment. But when we showed it, there was such a good response to it, and the piece itself. It was very it was part of a long series of sculptures that kind of tell the autobiography of my imagination, not just my life, but my imagination and where it's gone and how I resolved the issues from psychosis in that narrative. So yeah, that was a pretty important piece in time, because I had a lot of people joining me with that, with the film and stuff. So that's definitely been a highlight for me. We're working with the Hope James and Najee.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually where I met Trip, was the screening for that documentary. Is there someplace where people can see that?
I can, if I can chat my email address and send a link. I don't have it on my website.
Okay. Yeah, if you want to chat that. And Linda, we've got questions about your earrings and did you make them and where can people buy them? So both of you are sought after already. But yeah, the question is to you now, Linda, too.
I do make my earrings, and I either paint on them, fabric painting, or stretch fabric. I do not sell, but my daughter sells every year at the African American Culture Festival in Raleigh, North Carolina. My son-in-law, he sells by mail order, but I don't do any kind of selling, or I don't, but they will. I can hook you up with my daughter and son-in-law, and they can take care of that.
Great. Yeah, let us know if there's an email or we could send it out afterwards if that's more convenient.
Okay.
Okay, great. Well, lots of good energy going on here tonight. So the next question, how has COVID-19 changed your artwork? You might have answered this already, but if you haven't, go for it.
It changed mainly just for me, the material. I went from sculpture to drawing more so. Um, but the drawings and the sculptures are kind of the same process, and a lot of times, like mandala forms are just temple drawings. So I think that's about the only thing that changed was the material. The materials I was actually using in which media.
Was that because you're home more? That's
Yeah, and I wasn't at the studio, and I was trying to limit going outside, and I had paper, and I've been wanting to draw for a while. I hadn't drawn in a while, so I wanted to illustrate a book. But the one that I showed you, I came in stressed out one day, and I just said I just need to draw a circle. Circles make me feel better, and so I did that, and then next thing I know, it's 6 hours later. And that was the evening I was supposed to join y'all for another Zoom as just a viewer, and I just got lost in the drawing, and I got done, and I was like, oh, I feel better.
well, that sounds like a good investment of your time then.
Yeah.
How about you, Linda?
Well, this period of time has changed me in the matter of fact that I can focus more. I'm here, I stay at home anyway, but it gave me a time to focus more. I had time to sit and think of the type of work I wanted to create. During this period of time, as I mentioned before, I created 17 paintings the first couple of weeks of the virus. And I have those paintings on my Musty Folk Art Facebook page, if anybody wants to see those paintings. So this period has given me time to focus on what I wanted to do.
All right, 17 paintings in 14 days.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
Pretty
that's
impressive.
intense.
Yeah.
That must have felt good.
Do you go, Linda? Do you go through spells like that at times?
Well, my best time is if I listen to music, I can pretty much paint all day.
Yeah.
Music is another thing that keeps me motivated. That goes along with my art.
Yeah, absolutely. Get that tempo going.
Yeah.
Feel that. All right. So here's a question too. What message would you send to people who want to be creative and would love to be creative, but they say, "Oh, I'm just not artistic. I'm just not one of those people who can do that."
Yeah. I was thinking about that earlier. Because even as an artist, I struggle with at times of just getting started. And I think one of the things, if you do want to express yourself in art, I think we have a tendency sometimes to try to express everything that we're feeling into one piece of work. Like we got to make the masterpiece, and I got to express all this stuff articulately and right. But it's more simple than that. You just it starts from doodling. And that's all it takes. Is like for me when I drew the circle. I just need to draw a circle. So I would say just just express part of yourself. You don't have to try to get everything out, in one go.
Mm-hmm.
So Linda, what do you think?
Well, with me, I would think I think a person should maybe start a craft first, a hobby like making jewelry, putting pieces together. Because when you do a hobby, then other things come in as far as color, paint, construction, and I think that's a good thing to start. And also, what Tripp said, doodling, just drawings, making marks. And with painting, I think abstract is a good thing for a person to start because, there's no rules to abstract. It's just come from your mind. So whatever comes to your mind, just throw paint or just smear paint. And I think it'll flow from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And classes are always good. Like they can come out to Liberty Arts. We got all kinds of classes. I had to put a plug in for them.
All right. Fair enough.
But
Linda, do you want to mention your sip and paint?
oh yeah.
Oh, well, I do sip and paint. I'm an instructor for the Lewisburg Senior Citizens Center. And what we do, I make a drawing or a painting. I do a painting before class, and then other people, they'll paint what I painted. And we don't sip alcohol. We sip juice. We have juice. And it's a real fun. We play music and just talk, and everybody loves it, and I love it. And it's a nice thing, and it makes them feel good. And that is therapy for most of the seniors that come out for that. It gives them a time to relax, have fun, and not stress. And it's a good thing for them, and it's also good for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. It's so nice to get together with people and you have a good time and get support. And then you have something beautiful to take home, you know. Doesn't get much better than that, I think. And the comments from the chat box, they love the interaction between the two of you and great advice. I really like that when you both kind of touched on this, is just take the first step.
Yeah.
And just, you know, it doesn't have to be the masterpiece. Just get something started and see what flows and see what works for you. And I find that works for me with anything. If I want to write, I set out my laptop. If I want to draw, I put out crayons or pencil or paper. If I want to vacuum, I pull out the vacuum and plug it in. Maybe I don't do it right away, but just that first step, it's the hardest one.
Well, just tell yourself, I only have to do it for 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then usually that turns into 30 at least.
Right.
Yeah. I've heard that taken to another level. You only have to do it for 1 minute or 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is helpful. All right. So in this COVID-19 era, does this remind you of anything from the past, either your personal past or globally?
I'm not sure about that one. I was pondering that, and the only thing that I can draw one analogy, and it's just an impression, and it's when I had my breakdown at 19, and that's a whole long story in itself. But basically, I was being drove. My parents were taking me to the hospital, and my mind was just in another world, just completely gone. And I looked out the window, and I was wearing a Grateful Dead t-shirt, and it had a Grim Reaper and a moon on it, and it was about 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and the moon was out, and just a deep sense of calmness came over me. And a lot of this, what's been going on, I've noticed I've been responding more to the spring, how beautiful the spring's been, you know, just outside nature and stuff. And that's given me that sense of calmness, you know, in the pandemic. But as far as the pandemic itself, I don't have any, I'm not sure what I would relate it to, you know, in the end of that situation.
Well, that was a great answer. I love the image of the moon and the spring.
Yeah.
I've noticed nature more this time around too.
Well, it's like nature's trying to take care of us. You know, she's messing us up, but at the same time, she, you know so.
I've had that thought as well. Pollution is down.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are just enjoying the quiet time, the forced quiet time. What
Yeah.
about you, Linda?
For me, it goes way back. To me, seems to me back when I first went to the military. When I went into the military, I was 18 years old, and it seemed like I was in prison. It was so confined for me. It was new for me, and it caused me a lot of anxiety then. when I first get in, because I wasn't expecting the military to be what it was, because they told you one story to recruit you, to get you in there. And then once you got in there, a whole different world. So that's a memory for me at Corbett. You're confined. You have to go by the rules of what you can do, what you can't. You have to go where they tell you to go. You have to be out when they tell you to be out, and in when they told you to be in. So as far as the COVID, that's what reminds me of in the past, my military time.
Right. Yeah. There's a NPR program I listen to called Snap Judgments, and they have done a series of programs interviewing people who are on lockdown all the time. Maybe they were at Guantanamo Bay, or maybe they had a health issue that required them to be at home all the time anyways. And it's really interesting, these powerful interviews that came out of that. So yeah, it can be a common ground, that we all have this limitation for a while.
Yeah.
Sensitivity training. So we got a comment from to the panelists about your creative process comments. What helped? This person is saying, I had several creative projects at a time. I would pick up one and put it down and pick up another. She makes encouragement cards for people. So that's a good idea, to kind of rotate things and keep yourself inspired that way. All right. So clearly this is a scary time for a lot of people. Are you seeing silver linings in your life? And again, sometimes we get ahead of ourselves. You two are ahead of the curve. But if there's something you want to add that you haven't said yet.
Yeah. I think what it's helped me or done is to look a little closer at things, and I don't really know how to explain it any further than that. Anything from, I guess I think more about what people are thinking, what they may be going through, what nature is doing, and I just looked a little deeper into things, I guess. So it took a little bit longer to
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be a purpose for it, or there's got to be something. I'm hoping the best of humanity will come out of this, and so I'm hoping something like that will transpire.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it seems like it has in many cases, in many ways. The older gentleman in England he's walking around his backyard with his walker, and he promised to do so many laps to raise money for their National Health Service. There have been good things. What do you think, Miss Linda?
Well, I think this time has given a lot of people time to just stop and view the things around them, take time to look at what has happened to them before the COVID and what's happening to them now, and to give them an idea where will they go forward when it's all over with. Will it improve them to function another way, take safety a little bit more serious than they had in the past? So I think that a lot of people just need to take time and think about the past and the future and where they're going to go after this is all over with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's totally time to reset, and kind of, really think, and where can we go?
Mm-hmm. It's easy to feel like you're in a hurry a lot in our culture. So when you have to slow down, when you can't complete all the tasks on your list that normally you would complete, it is helpful. You take that deep breath, and I've definitely noticed the spring. I'm back to that comment. I latched onto that trip.
That's the thing that stuck with me more than anything throughout all this. It's just like all this intense, not just the pandemic, but with the politics and everything. But the spring, the nature is just just been my saving grace for it all. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Linda, I like your comment about the future. I mean, this is a reset moment. So let's look at our vision. Let's reflect on that, and moving forward, what might we do differently? All right.
Yes, I think that's very important, right? Very important.
Yeah. It's they say there's an old curse, may you live in interesting times. And it can, it's a struggle, but it's also, there's a payoff too.
Yeah.
So a lot of folks in our
Yes.
virtual studio audience are caretakers or people who love someone with a mental illness. Any thoughts specifically for them as people who've done really well with a creative tool that's helped your recovery?
Yeah, just sharing and some artwork, anything, any medium, I mean, it could be taking, I don't know, napkins and folding them into origami, anything, and and I wouldn't even suggest trying to get expressing things, just I think Linda had touched upon it about kind of that shared space, with that artwork, you're on the same common ground, whether you can articulate it verbally or not. And so that space is shared, and so there's some type of human connection. If I just think it's a great place for people to join and commune when they can't do it verbally, or they can't figure out how to articulate and stuff. So I think it's important that sharing some type of artwork, doing something together.
Mm-hmm.
It could be anything, and it could be just as comical, and it doesn't. It could be just anything. Anything from a butterfly on top of a frog, or so, but that would be my suggestion. It does produce that ground for both of you to experience together. So.
Mm-hmm. Any follow up, Linda?
Well, I was a caregiver for some years to my aunt who had suffered from schizophrenic. And although I didn't know what I was going through at the same time, I was able to help her to adjust to her mood swings, and also give me time to focus on the kind of things that can happen, with people who suffer from mental illnesses and being a caregiver. So my thing is, when you're a caregiver and you're dealing with other people, it's best to be patient, with them, and learn from them, and they will learn from you, if that's what the question was.
Yeah, that was a beautiful statement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I once was teaching a mental health first aid class, and a gentleman made a comment. He was the owner of an adult care facility, and Linda, your comment reminds me of this. And he had a resident who was pretty delusional, who was talking to Martians and talking about aliens a lot of the time. And the manager of the house said, well, what I find is that we can still find common ground. We talk about our families, we talk about what we like to eat, we can go for a walk. And when I enjoy that companionship and focus on that common ground, I get a sense of who he is outside of the illness, and that's what I relate to. So you just, and I'm not sure I'm saying it as eloquently as he did, but it just a way of really seeing the person as a person, apart from the mental illness. It was really lovely. So thank you for those comments.
Yes.
So what gives you hope?
I had an answer for that.
That's my favorite principle.
Doing my Tai Chi always grounds me, but there's always I can relate it to that moon incident when I was going to the hospital. Seeing the moon, feeling very calm, but I felt like I touched upon something that was very solid, indestructible, good, peaceful. It was just a part of me that was the root of everything. And I've had a couple other moments like that in my life, and those are the ones I try to focus in on when, just know that everybody in the world has this innate goodness, this indestructible part of us that is just like, it's like clear crystal or something. I don't know. And so that's what and I read and do all kinds of stuff, but it all comes back to those moments of finding that calmness,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you. I relate to that.
I don't know really how to explain what gives me hope. I think the people who functions, as you can see now, everybody coming together, that's the kind of thing that gives me hope. That everybody functioning and enjoying together, it gives me hope that things will turn out pretty good after this storm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it seems like our higher angels come out in difficult times, so that does lift me up too. All right, so our timing is perfect. We're just about at the halfway mark of our 7 to 8:30 show, and it's time for our video of the week. So once again, our video is going to feature Roxy Morrison, our mascot. This is a silent film. It's a sneak preview of something that we will be showing, I hope, as part of our walk programming. And this is Roxy wearing an anti-stigma shirt. There you can see the stigma with a line through it. Can you guys see the film?
Yes.
It's not rolling yet, but it should be full screen though. All right, so there's no sound, but there will be music to it when we show it. So she's going from office to office here at NAMI, North Carolina. That's our volunteer, Eddie. Lori Matson, our marketing manager. I think that's the right title. Okay. And that's Lindsay Taylor, our walk manager. She's very busy this week. Here's Gary Kreitz. He's illustrating how a mascot and someone who takes stigma out of our lives can bring us from a sad place to a happy place. Gary Kreitz is our executive director.
Wow.
And Michaela Leffen. She's our affiliate outreach coordinator and community inclusion expert. All right, that's pretty much the end of that.
Bravo.
Yeah, so that's Roxy.
Yeah.
Fun stuff. Yeah, she's also my roommate, she's a pretty good person to live with. All right, so I want to take this moment to thank our helpers, Virginia Radius, our helpline manager, who's been helping out on the chat box. And again, Gary Kreitz, executive director, who's been supportive and has showed up every single week since we started this show on April 9th. So thank you so much, Gary and Virginia. You've been a big help. And while I'm thinking of it too, thank you to Linda and Tripp. You've been wonderful, wonderful guests so far. Okay, so now we get to do our Q&A part of the show. One more thing to say before I forget, if you have a video you would like us to show on Thursdays with NAMI, please send it to us. You can post it to our Facebook page or send it to mail@naminc.org. Okay, the Q&A portion of our show, we've got 5 questions in the box. If you're not sure how to ask a question, there's a little Q&A icon on the bottom of your monitor. Click that, type in the box, and we will see your questions magically. Okay, so first question right here at the top. Trip, hello, it's Denise. Could you please tell us if there was an aha moment where you realized that art was extremely important to bring you out of your psychosis, or was it a gradual process?
I think the moment that I realized I could use it in a way to help myself. I've always been an artist, so it's you know, I was producing art anyhow, but the aha moment was kind of I was watching a movie with a friend of mine from high school. I was only out of the hospital maybe a few months, and she was aware of my situation. And we were watching a movie called Basketball Diaries with Leonardo DiCaprio. And it's basically, he's a high school kids that get addicted to cocaine or something. And just goes through this horrific life. But it's basically an autobiography. And my friend Kelly was like, you should write a book. You know, that was,
You should write a book.
So that spawned the idea that I could use art in a way to kind of that alchemical transformation of taking something that was bad and making it into a medicine. I'm not sure if there was aha. It was kind of aha moment in the sense that I could use it, but how took many years to figure out how I could art. It took me many years to figure out what the hell happened to me. So
Yeah.
you know, it slowly grew, and then you know, Denise, I did a talk with her with In Your Own Voice, and that was a good moment. But the moments like this I'm doing now and stuff is when I realized very and it's just reassuring when we have these things and the public responds positively. Just everybody's hungry for this art, any art that can alleviate and let us rise above whatever. But so,
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of people are hungry for that, something to ground them and make structure out of chaos. How about you, Linda? Did you have an aha moment? Did that bring something to mind for you?
No, I didn't have moments all the time. When I have art come to my mind and explodes, I could be sitting doing something else and something to click, like, okay, you could put that in a painting. Well, those are my moments when I have something pop in my head as to what I want to create. So I call those my aha moments.
Yeah, it just comes up out of nowhere. Okay. So the next couple questions are, Linda, we love your jewelry. Can we have the website with your jewelry? And I think we're going to address that. We put your Facebook page in the chat box, and we can do a follow-up email on how to make a purchase, if that sounds good. Okay, now back to Trip.
That sounds good.
All right, perfect. So the picture you showed, was it pencil? It had a Native American feel, Trip, is that correct? Did you use a picture as a guide?
okay, so that's pen and ink, and you know, it was more they're based on mandalas. Like I got introduced to the mandala imagery through Carl Jung, the psychologist, because I delved into him after I got out of the hospital. I'd mentioned something to my mom about Star Wars, and she said has a lot of Jungian archetypes and stuff. You know, it's very Jungian. You should check that out. So I started reading Jung, and just got obsessed with reading that. He was talked a lot about mandalas, so they kind of calm me. And the circular motif is a very spiritual connection to myself, and it'd take a really long time to explain in detail, but they calm me. And as far as the imagery, it grows as I draw it. A lot of times I don't have a specific um, idea in mind. This one, the one I showed you had a bird, right? Yeah. So that one was based on a dream, and I'll try to go through it real quickly. But the imagery behind it was, I had this dream that this is about a year after I've been out of the hospital.
Okay. And you had mentioned Jung, and I think I've also heard that pronounced Carl Jung. That's the same
Yeah,
person,
yes,
right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, same person.
Okay, just double checking on that one. All right, let me go back to our Q&A. Trip, the picture okay, that's the one we just answered. Linda, I viewed your art on Facebook and you have some wonderful work. Trip, do you have a site we can visit to see more of your art?
Yes, I do. And let me figure out how. Do I go to chat? Is that how?
Yeah, you can type that into the chat and then everyone will see it. So we don't have, oh no, there is one interesting question actually to both of you. Is there a difference in your artwork when you're struggling emotionally versus when you're in a better place? That's a good one. I know for me, I'm more prolific when I'm unhappy for some reason. Go ahead, Linda.
I think there's a difference. I don't think you can separate when it happens. It depends on the mood. Say if I'm in a calm kind of mood, my pain has become a little bit more passive. If I have been upset about something, then my art is like a little harsh, bold. So there's a difference in how you feel as to what you produce.
Yeah, how about you, Trip? That makes a lot of sense to me.
I tend to most of my work is I don't think there's much difference because for so long I've been focusing on these temple structures and trying to make the outcome be the same. I have, and just recently, everything's been is usually pretty on the more positive side, but through therapy and stuff, things are coming up, and I'm like, feel I need to deal with the issues of pain and shame and suffering and things like that. But I'm pretty, about the past year, I've been pretty stable. We've got my medication right, my anxiety's under control. So I've been on pretty, even keel, not a bad word to use, but pretty even state of mind. I'm more just wrestle with a little bit of depression. And if that happens, then I really don't get anything done. But I don't get into a manic stage either. I kind of did at one point, but yeah, at the moment, there's not too much differentiation. I know when I was younger, I did more, like in high school when I wrote poetry, it was really dark and really bad. But that's another avenue I do is I write poetry. But yeah, younger in my early career was really dark, and it was just get it out what needs to come out. So, but
yeah, yeah, we should put a book out together and just depress the heck out of people. I think it could be really effective.
Interesting enough, I've got this short story that I wrote in high school, and I go back to it and think about how it was then, what I was going through, and things that I've learned that's happened since then that I wasn't aware of then. And reading the story and the imagery, it was, and it's just like, holy cow, You know,
Mhm.
your mind picks up on so much and expresses itself in ways that you don't even realize it sometimes. Like I did a picture for my mom for Mother's Day, similar to those drawings, and I was doing Aslan in the mandala version, Aslan from Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Narnia, and I couldn't get the eyes right. And then all of a sudden I looked, I had drawn the lion's face without realizing I had drawn it. And it was
Oh,
just,
wow.
it was incredible. So there's a interesting dynamics there. I don't know. I think I strayed off the question, but
No, but if you can channel a lion and draw a lion's
yeah,
face, that's a pretty cool thing to share. So definitely,
yeah.
that's neat. Well, here's a question that I think almost segues into that. Has therapy helped with doing art?
Yes. Um, in many ways, in a practical way, it's allowed me to pay bills, medical bills. um, but yeah, you know, it's helped me to try to keep on track. I have so many interests. I try to, like 1 minute I wanted to write a book, next minute I want to go off and get an art therapy degree, and I get bouncy around, just having so many things I want to do, and therapy kind of keeps me focused, and um, um, I think they're both necessary. Both they're more symbiotic, I think, in a way, as instead of directly, because there's just some things that can't be expressed in talk therapy, or just anyways, and that's why we have music. That's why we have the visual arts. But it can't. It's like with the talk therapy and the art side at the same time. If you can get them both interrelating, then that movement back and forth is what creates something lasting that'll be meaningful. If that
Hmm.
makes any sense.
Yeah. Linda?
Yes, I think therapy helps with art. Uh, I've been going to therapy since 2002, and the VA requires us once a month to have our therapy, along with the medication. I think it helps. It gives you time. It gives you time to think. Therapy helps keep you sound. It keeps you calm and motivated. And you always think about, once you've been to therapy 1 month, you always think about what's going to be happening for the next session that you have. So it keeps you focused. I think it keeps you focused, and it really helps in art because it allows you to think. When you have therapy, it just helps. It just helps. In general, it just helps. It's something that I think everybody needs to help keep them focused and sound. But it really does help. I don't know the best words to how to put it, but I think that if you don't have therapy, I don't think you're going to be able to be as creative as you want to be, because you tend to go in and out slumps. At one point, I wasn't on medication. I didn't take medication, and I was constantly falling back into slumps. And then when I realized what's going on, then I said, "Oh, okay. You need that. You need that therapy. You need those medications to stay focused. Because you can slide off and have no creativity. You can go in hibernation time and do nothing. You can be a hermit. So I think that knowing that you have to go to therapy and do therapy and benefit from while you're in therapy, I think that's a help. That's a help in not just the creative art, is a help in your ability to function on a daily basis. So therapy is a must to me.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. I think at their best, art and therapy both are helping us know ourselves. They're sort of helping gently peel back the layers of the onion. Um, and both of them can make structure out of chaos. For me, that's my
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
And you went right into the next question, Linda, so well done. Have you found taking medication interferes with your art? So in your case, no.
No, no, it doesn't interfere. It helps. To me, it helps. It helps. It's that all I can say, that it really helps.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I resisted it for the longest time when I was younger, but one day I was like, it's just how it is. But you can ask some of my studio mates, guys I used to work with a year ago. I'd have anxiety attacks. I'd be laying down on the table for 30 minutes, or I'd be on the the office floor. And now I work, and so it helps a lot. So I mean, it's especially for young folk who are when you first get medicated, it's very difficult to accept. But I just one day I was like, that's just how it's going to be, because I'd go off it and things get really bad. So,
yeah, I relate to so much of what you're both are saying. So much that I do take medication for depression, anxiety, and I did everything I could possibly think of to put that off in my life. I think I was in my 30s before I would even try it. I jogged, I did yoga, I joined Toastmasters, I took St. John's Wort, I became vegetarian, I gave up dairy. Like anything, any ball I could throw in the air. But there was one thing I needed. It was medication. So, well, maybe not the only one, but it was a real important one. You guys ready for the next question then?
Yep.
All right. What led you both to your particular media?
Yes.
What was the process like?
So what led me into this, I was in art school, undergraduate degree at East Carolina University. I was trying to get into graphic design, and I had 2 semesters of the graphic design, and I was supposed to submit my portfolio. And the rumor going around the students was that we had to redo every project for the past 2 semesters to get accepted. And I just wasn't enjoying graphic design that much. And at the same time, I took a sculpture class, survey class, and I got hold of a piece of soapstone, and I carved that thing, and I was like, man, this is great. I hope I don't get into graphic design. So I didn't get into graphic design. And then once I got in the sculpture program, I got introduced to iron casting, and then it took off, and it was just it's an incredible experience. So art school is what got me into metal casting and sculpture and stuff. So, yeah.
And the rest was history.
Yeah, and it as far as like running iron casting events, that was kind of thrown in my lap. I was working for a man named Jim Galucci up in Greensboro, and he got a call from Western Carolina University saying, "Hey, do you have somebody that can come and do an iron casting workshop?" He looked at me, "You got a furnace, don't you?" I was like, "Cause I built one in grad school." Like, yeah. He says, "Yeah, I got some. I sent them up there." And so I was kind of thrown into it. So, but yeah, no, that's pretty much how it is.
Wow. How about you, Linda?
I gradually came into the arts. I started hobbies. I started with jewelry, then metal casting, then I got sculpturing, then I got clay, and just led from one thing, clay, then I got to paint, then I got into sewing, then I got into quilting, then I got into painting fabrics, and now I'm painting on canvas. So it's been a gradual thing from hobby all the way to just all types of art. And I paint on everything, so wood, plastic, anything, fabric. So it was a gradual process. It was gradual for me.
That's neat. So I better keep an eye on my dog if I ever introduce you to my dog, right?
Well, she might can make him a nice little cape, decorate the cape a little bit.
Yeah.
That would be perfect. That would be perfect.
Yeah.
All right, so that is our last question for now. But you made a comment, Trip, that you made the furnace.
Yes.
Talk about that a little bit.
So we were in grad school, and with iron casting and stuff, it's kind of there is a kind of a beat your chest, but we were. I wanted to build one, but I didn't say anything to my professors, and then there's this postmodern seminar class that all graduate students had to take, and me and one other guy we were having a very difficult time with it, and you could substitute it with a independent study if your chair of the department okays it. So my colleague now, who was my professor then, Carl Billingsley, was like, "All right, you two, you're going to build a furnace. I want it to be hot." So me and my buddy James Davis, we set to work and built it. Half the time I didn't know what I was doing or how to do it. James seemed to have a pretty good idea. I knew how to run one, but as far as the math and the proportions and stuff, we kind of talked it through. And it's a simple, iron casting furnace, the cupola is fairly simple. It's just basically a shell, like a cylinder, vertical cylinder with thin cylinder of steel, and then about 4 inches of ceramic refractory lining the inside of it. And it's basically a coal fire. We use coke, which is a refined coal, and it's basically a contained coal fire. And we introduce air into it, very strong blast of air that continually circulates, and it's just like blowing on a campfire, blowing on coal. And we throw the iron in there, and so yeah. And I've had that furnace since 2005. I think I've relined it like 4 times, and she hasn't changed since grad school. But she's doing good. I named her Phoenix, Phenix, as in the elemental.
Oh, Phoenix.
Yeah.
Oh, that's neat. I love that Phoenix symbol. So Linda, how about you? Did you always feel adventurous about using different media and painting on different surfaces, or did you sort of grow into that slowly?
It was like growing to it slowly. At a jury, I doing some in clay, and it me to experiment with colors. So that's how just gradually came out, and then once I get to fabrics and wood, gradually, I suppose gradually got better. The more I did it, the more I experienced colors, just motivate me to do all kind of and colors was another thing that helped me start painting canvas. Just trying to get the colors to see what mixture of color about.
You're kind of breaking up just a little bit, Linda. I'm hearing that there was a gradual process, and you went from it sounded like paper or canvas to wood. I don't know if anything changed on your end with the sound, but suddenly it's harder to understand. Sort of like you're going in and out with your voice.
Okay. My camera doing this, so there's probably I know my clothes going my screens. It's probably my tablet.
Your tablet is upset.
No. Tablets do get upset at times.
Yeah, I understand that. Well, here's another question from Gary. Has there been a particular artist who has been an inspiration to you in your work?
I am kind of a synthesis of my professors, but I thought I was more culturally. not necessarily a particular artist, but culturally. When I was in Europe studying Tai Chi, I got into um, Eastern thought, and so a lot of the temples came out of that. Um, that was a big inspiration. Um, One of my favorite sculptors, I hate to say it sounds cliche, but I love Michelangelo's stone carvings. They're just
Mm,
I mean, but and I like that
sure.
there's um there's not been one particular that I do like Arnaldo Palmaduro. He was a good one. Um, so
Okay. Arnado Palmadoro.
yeah, he does these large scale bronze castings,
Uh-huh.
and they are very simple, but they have like cutouts and sections of it, like very thin areas that are like his shape, his overall shape's very geometric, very clean, simple. Um, what do you call it? But then there's some parts of it that are like a crevice or something that are highly intricate and
Hmm.
with pattern and stuff, and they're incredible.
Okay, so we could Google Palmadoro.
Yeah.
Okay. Palmadoro.
I'm not sure exactly how to spell it now.
Well, we'll put that in the chat
Yeah.
box
Okay.
and or
Yeah.
send it out afterwards.
Yeah.
Linda, you want to talk about an artist who inspires you? We'll cross our fingers on the audio here.
Okay. Well, I never really had one particular artist. Lately, the artist that inspired me, his name is Michael Lane. And I really love art. So some of his art has some of his techniques in it. So he really inspired me now.
Michael Lane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what she
Okay.
said.
Okay. Just repeating for our panelists. Oh, nice. Thank you, Virginia. Michael Lane is the next artist. Virginia put all that information in the chat box very promptly. So if there is another question, we could answer another question. We do wrap up early sometimes if it feels like the energy is kind of moving in that direction. It's not mandatory that we be here till 8:30, but I do want to get everyone's questions addressed. You've been very supportive as usual, virtual studio audience. We appreciate that.
Yes.
Okay, well, I think I'm going to start to read my little farewell spiel.
Okay.
And first, I would really want to thank Linda and Trip. You both have been wonderful to talk to. I think you're similar enough and different enough and both very insightful and talented. So thank you so much for sharing your time and your expertise with us.
Yeah, no problem.
And Gary agrees you both are fantastic. So lots of accolades in the chat box.
All right.
You're both
Thank you.
inspiring. So another Thursday evening has flown
Thank
by.
you.
Thank you. All right, I think we got the thank yous covered. I really want to, and thanks to our virtual studio audience, to please be well in the week ahead and do observe social distancing. Do whatever you need to do, go wherever you need to go, but absolutely be safe. And that's it for Thursdays with NAMI. I'm going to put our informational screen up here again, and that's pretty much all she wrote. Have a wonderful week.
You do the same. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right. Talk to you later. You in your blue sky.
That's right.